Chairman's monthly report being tabled as we speak. Just a couple of comments to kick things off. Priorities in the month ahead. Martin Jenkins is doing the report for the East Coast on transport requirements for the next 30 years, which will be an undertaking, but finally we've got an opportunity for different government departments to get together, share some knowledge, talk about some opportunity, and best of all, the coast is a positive object of discussion in Wellington, which is good because there is certainly potential opportunity here. We're still going to keep growing pine trees, etc. further north in the Gisborne district. We are the one of the, if you like, the breeding capitals of the country for sheep and beef. We have big cow herds and sheep flocks, I should say, still on the coast, which is part of the bigger picture for supplying store stock to the rest of the country. So I think that's actually, it is probably going to be, I've got a meeting in Gisborne next week with the potential authors, and I'll keep you up to date, keep you informed. And general comments talking about the Drought Committee. The final sentence may sound a little vague. Checkbooks, who runs a checkbook in this modern age? But the reality is, there is concern still amongst the Drought Committee that we have a farming community that is going to, certainly the sheep and beef farming community in the areas most affected by the drought, who are going to be competing on a, dare I say it, a national stage for replacement stock once the spring is sort of within our sights, and there is some concern that there may be a slowdown in general expenditure for things such as capital works of fencing, drainage, etc. on farm by farmers. So we have very little influence over that as council and dare I say it, the greater Drought Committee, which includes bankers, accountants, and other councils, consultants, etc. But be rest assured, I suppose, is the message that we're keeping a firm eye on that going forward. The rest of it is pretty straightforward. The only suggestion there, on the 30th of 5th, I queued up expectantly with everyone to listen to guest speaker, Honourable Nathan Guy, who didn't front. So we had an MPI discussion on that day, which was useful, I might add. But any questions? Councillor Rowe.
Mr. Chairman, there are some meetings here that you've attended which I think are worthy of further comment, or perhaps you might start with Ngāti Hanganunu. You had a meeting with them. I guess there was a little bit of noise going on at that time. Did you manage to resolve some of the ongoing differences that you have with the iwi?
Well, the noise was actually Pōwhiri at the beginning, followed by a very useful discussion, I might add, with Nikki Nahiwi Tamona is worldly wise, and whatever comments may have been floating around in the past, I found it useful to finally get a medium to have an audience with the guy. He's very busy. In my 2.5 years as chair, I hadn't taken or formed an opportunity to meet with him and discuss issues that we may share and opportunities that we may see together. But I think the Tuki, the plan change deal, their submission to that, their understanding
trust was going to be absorbed within the East Coast support. That's something that
at that meeting.
So it's happened.
It's happened, yes.
Perhaps at an appropriate time you might be able to advise the office holders of the new trust.
Yeah,
what is the new trust called? It's East Coast, is it?
Well, it's East Coast.
It's just been absorbed.
It's just been absorbed, yeah. The funds are still. I think we're talking, crikey, on top of my head, $10,000 I think was residual, which is still got the Hawke's Bay earmark on it, if you like. So.
Yeah. Well, it took 10 years, but I'm pleased you got the.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Councillor Gilbertson.
Yeah, 2 questions, Mr. Chairman. The talking of Nathan Guy, I think one of the most serious things that's happened the last long time is that palm kernel, where the two Federated Farmers guys went to Malaysia, found that palm kernel was coming in unauthorised, and the other day they found a dead animal in it. That is absolutely horrendous in terms of our biosecurity and the threat to Hawke's Bay. Is there any chance of you, when you finally catch up with Nathan McGuire, getting him by the throat and giving him a damn good shaking? Because that failure to act over a 12-month period, in my opinion, and probably most of my constituents, was an absolute shocker. Absolute shocker. And it came through the farming press, but nowhere else. But I'd urge you, if you get the chance, to really get serious on that, because that was the most appalling incompetence, and it's almost treasonable. The second one is that. Do you think that's a valid message to convey?
I suspect shaking a Minister of the Crown by the throat is probably not permitted. I can try on your behalf, though.
Or could you Skype him then?
Skype him, okay.
It's a really serious issue, and I hope you could convey that. The second thing was Jenny Giblin environment. Did you? Was that just a general chat, or was there a specific?
No, it was a catch up around the Potiri project and the Aotearoa Foundation funding that we've had in Hawke's Bay, which has gone up into Miti, Mangaruru, Tangatu, the Mangaruru range, and we're just talking about future opportunities with a relationship with that foundation. They're very pro Hawke's Bay and some of the outcomes we're having, certainly around the pest stuff that the regional council is leading at the moment. She's been a conduit, if you like, as she is for all sorts of other organisations to keep the cash flowing. So she does a good job. Questions, Councillor Remerswell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Interesting month you've had. What about the meeting, the Grasshoppers meeting with Bryce Johnson? What was the content of that?
There are Chatham House rules.
I understand, Councillor. Yeah, I understand. He was just a guest speaker at a function that I attend as a member, not necessarily representing council, but I thought it was useful to include it to demonstrate that Bryce is getting out and about the traps and talking to different folk. So that pretty much sums it up. I am bound by Chatham House rules, but there was nothing particularly... in fact, in his own words, he was quite happy for everything he said to be said aloud, and we've heard him say it all aloud in the last month or so and through the media. So,
you can make any comment, or was there any common ground found at that meeting?
They're not. They're more of an information delivering and question meeting. I mean, there's never an opportunity to say, oh, well, we've reached consensus on point A, B, C or D with any of the speakers, and nor should there be. It's designed to stimulate debate, and by crikey it does. And it did that night.
Mr. Chair, can you...
Me. Oh, sorry, and Councillor McGregor is up there over the weekend. He's going to go to the conference part Monday, Tuesday, on the way home. You wish to move?
Question, Mr. Chairman, the Chinese delegation.
Which date is that? The one you deputised for? No? Yes, it should, and I'm not sure why that's not there. Good spotting. So if the mover's happy to have that piece of information added to the list, you're happy with that? Second, for that report being received, Councillor McGregor. Speakers, put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried. General business, transparency, Hawke's Bay, or was it transparency meeting?
Yeah, the meeting.
It's your...
Well, I wasn't at the meeting, Mr. Chairman. I put in an apology, but I had the view that we have a very we have a large communications section, and it just seems that the in some sense we're not particularly getting our message across if there's 150 people at a hall to answer questions that should probably be answered through our organisation. So I just make the comment that I just think perhaps we could do slightly better in the communications sphere. And just specifically, I understand I wasn't there, that one of the major things is economics, and it seems self-evident to me that the economics of the dam is such that if the farmers don't invest, it won't go ahead. So perhaps our communications people could communicate more effectively that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy is not the quite word. It's if the farmers don't take it up, the investors won't invest. So the economic argument is it's self-answering. What's the word I'm looking for, Mr. Chairman?
Self-fulfilling.
Self-fulfilling. Yes. I just really think that we need to get that message across more. That if it's not economic, it won't go ahead. So we don't need to go round and round in circles debating something that will naturally sort itself out. So that was my view.
Self-Skyping, I think, is the... Yeah. Councillor McGregor, Balance Farm Awards.
On Saturday evening, went up with Campbell Leckie, and what a showplace it was for good, outstanding practical environmentalism on farms. There were 375 there at the dinner, and the evening started off with young Maori doing a welcoming haka, which, boy, did they put everything into it. You couldn't help but be emotionally taken in by it. And our East Coast winner came through very well, but didn't make the winning. That was a Canterbury arable farmer that won. But our winners were the Walters of Smedley Station. They were in a sort of a separate category. Well, they weren't in a separate category, but they were a bit of a standout in that it was by far the biggest property. It was some of it raised up to steeper hill country and bush mountain land virtually, and of course the educational aspect of Smedley was quite unique. Driving up, I just must say this, we wondered whether we were going to, on the Friday, whether the road was going to be open. In fact, the snow was nowhere near it. And we cruised up, and as we got across the other side of the mountains, the sun came out, and I've never seen in the middle of winter that country looking so brilliant. And the landscape right through to Hamilton was outstanding, and I'd say 95% of the pasture land was under deering, and to me it looked pretty good. And just as a matter of interest, I didn't make Dr. Joy's meeting on Monday night, but I took a couple of pictures off his website of a paper he presented, 2 pictures of deering, no other pictures, no captions, and it's got just 2 pictures of cows in utter mud, nothing else. And I thought, what a contrast to what I saw on the Saturday, which was an outstanding example of landscape under deering and outstanding examples of farm environmentalism.
I suppose in some way that does tie into your trip, Councillor. Councillor Remersville, Brazil.
Just briefly, Mr. Chair, just to let you know that I was a New Zealand representative at a international conference on sustainable democracy, which I was lucky enough to be offered the chance to speak to on one of the 6 forums, which and the one that I was talking was water and sustainability, which took place in the south of Brazil, Porto Alegre, and it's an offshoot of the World Forum on Social Development, and which is a very progressive organisation which focuses on rights and democracy, and particularly not just on the main cities but on peripherals. So there was over 1,000 participants from 200 cities and 50 countries, covering 4 continents. So very, very interesting and well organised. As far as the Water and Sustainability Forum went, part of it, there was people there from France, Portugal, Senegal, Brazil and New Zealand. Actually, there was only one other English speaker, and that was a 92-year-old mayor from a Canadian city who was this incredible lady who's been actually the mayor for 35 years, still going strong, and just an incredible woman, actually. She didn't miss a beat. But in in contrast to what we have here, this country, it was quite sobering to think of a country like Senegal, which has less than 60% of the water is treated there. They have real problems, and of course it causes a lot of illness and so on. So there were a lot of synergies, and we talked about the United Nations right to water, and there was also an appearance at the conference from the ex-president of Mir, known as Lula, who's a very famous, charismatic man. He claims to be responsible for taking 20 million Brazilians out of poverty. He was a very charismatic figure. When he walked into the room, that was just electric. But so that was amazing. But and this was all going in the background of the protests in Brazil right throughout the country of just ordinary people who felt that they're not getting paying 40% taxes, and they don't have access to good health spend, good education, etc. So they were out on the streets. Started off as a 20-cent increase in bus fares, but it was a lot deeper than that. So it was. There are communities on the rise as we speak, and it was just a very interesting, fascinating experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to call a meeting to an interlude here, and we'll have we can be back here by 10 to 1, and then we'll contemplate going into public excluded and further presentation.